I want you to think back to the last time you ate a plate of pasta, or a bowl of white rice, or even just a couple of slices of toast with jam. Do you remember what happened about 45 minutes later? That heavy, foggy feeling. Maybe your eyelids got a little bit heavier. Maybe you found yourself reaching for the couch instead of finishing the dishes. Most people call that a food coma. What is actually happening inside your bloodstream at that exact moment is a glucose spike, and depending on how your body is handling it, that spike can be doing quiet damage to your blood vessels, your energy levels, and over the years, your risk of type 2 diabetes. Here is the part almost nobody explains clearly. It is not just what you eat that determines how high your blood sugar climbs. It is also the order you eat it in, what you eat right before it, and what you do in the 15 minutes after your fork goes down. Change those three things, and you can blunt a blood sugar spike by 30, sometimes even 40%, without cutting a single carbohydrate out of your life. I'm Dr. Richard James, and this channel exists for one simple reason: to help people over 55 understand what the research actually says about staying healthy, staying independent, and staying out of a hospital bed, explained in plain language, with no fear tactics and no hype. I spend my time reading the clinical literature so you don't have to, and today I'm going to walk you through the specific foods and the specific sequence that research shows lowers blood sugar the fastest and the safest, without risking the dangerous crashes that come with overcorrecting. Stay with me until the end, because the seventh thing on this list has nothing to do with food at all, and it may be the single most powerful tool on this entire list. It costs nothing, it takes 10 minutes, and almost nobody over 55 is doing it after meals. Before we get into it, tell me in the comments what state or country you're watching from today. I read every single one, and it helps me understand who is part of this community. Let's get into it. Before we talk about any specific food, you need to understand one concept, because without it, the rest of this video will just sound like a list of groceries. I call it the glucose curve. Picture a graph, flat line before you eat. Then you take a bite of something like white bread, and that line shoots almost straight up, peaks hard, and then drops just as fast, sometimes dropping below where it started. That sharp spike and crash is what damages your blood vessels over time, not just the total amount of sugar you ate, but how fast it arrived. Now here's why this matters more after 55 than it did at 30. Two things change with age, and I think of them as two hammers working against you at the same time. The first hammer is that your pancreas, specifically the beta cells that release insulin, becomes slower to respond. In your 30s, your pancreas reacts to rising glucose almost instantly. By your 60s and 70 seconds, that response is delayed, so more glucose accumulates in your bloodstream before insulin never shows up to clear it. The second hammer is that your muscle tissue, which is actually the largest storage site for glucose in your entire body, has usually shrunk. Less muscle means less storage capacity, so the same plate of food produces a higher spike than it would have decades earlier. Over 29% of American adults over 65 are currently living with diagnosed or undiagnosed diabetes. That is not a small statistic. That is nearly 1 in 3 people in this exact age group. And here's the part your doctor may not have time to explain in a 15-minute visit. The goal is not simply to crush your blood sugar as low as possible. Overcorrecting glucose in older adults is genuinely dangerous. It raises the risk of falls, confusion, and cardiac stress. The goal is to flatten that curve, not to bottom it out. That distinction is everything, and it is exactly what the foods and techniques in this video are designed to do. If this concept of the glucose curve makes sense so far, drop the word curve in the comments so I know you're tracking with me, because everything from here forward builds on this one idea. Number 1, lentils and the fiber gel that changes everything. Let me be very precise here, because lentils get lumped in with other carbohydrates, and that is a mistake. Lentils sit in the low range of the glycemic index, somewhere between 25 and 35, and the reason has almost nothing to do with willpower and everything to do with plumbing. Lentils are dense with soluble fiber. When that fiber hits liquid in your stomach, it doesn't just sit there. It swells into a thick, viscous gel, almost like the texture of cooked oatmeal. That gel physically coats the starch molecules around it and slows down the enzymes trying to break them into absorbable glucose, instead of a flood of sugar hitting your bloodstream at once. You get a slow, steady drip. I had a patient, Barbara, 68 years old. recently retired from teaching 3rd grade for over 30 years. She came in frustrated because her fasting glucose kept creeping upward despite what she called eating carefully. When we reviewed her meals, she was eating plenty of vegetables, but her main starch at most meals was white rice or potatoes. We swapped her side dish to a half cup of lentils at dinner for nights a week. Nothing else changed. At her follow-up 3 months later, her fasting glucose had dropped meaningfully, and she told me she no longer felt that afternoon crash she used to blame on getting older. Ask yourself honestly. Does your energy dip hard about an hour after lunch? Do you find yourself needing a nap or a coffee to push through the afternoon? That pattern is often a fingerprint of a sharp glucose spike followed by the crash. What to do instead? Swap white rice, white pasta, or potatoes for lentils at least 3 times a week. A half cup cooked is enough to notice a difference. If the texture isn't for you, canned lentils, rinsed well to reduce sodium, work just as well as dried ones cooked from scratch. Number 2. Chia seeds, the seed that builds its own gel wall. This one surprises people every single time because chia seeds look so unassuming. They're tiny, they're bland, and yet they carry one of the most powerful fiber mechanisms of any food we're going to discuss today. Chia seeds contain mucilaginous fiber, which is a fancy way of saying that when they touch water, they form a dense hydrogel almost immediately. You've probably seen this if you've ever made chia pudding. That gel isn't just a texture trick. It's a physical barrier inside your digestive tract that slows how quickly your stomach empties its contents into the small intestine, where sugar absorption actually happens. The research here is genuinely striking. Studies measuring postprandial glucose, meaning your blood sugar after eating, show that adding chia seeds to a meal suppresses acute glucose excursions in a way that few other foods match, and it does this without adding any meaningful calories or requiring you to change your meal. Here's the detail that makes this particularly practical for people over 55. You don't need a full recipe built around chia seeds. You need 1 tablespoon, ground or whole, stirred into oatmeal, yogurt, or even a glass of water 15 minutes before a carbohydrate-heavy meal. That's the entire intervention. What to do instead? Keep a small jar of chia seeds next to your coffee maker. Add 1 tablespoon to your morning oatmeal or yogurt, and if you're having a starchier dinner like rice or bread, stir a tablespoon into a glass of water and drink it before your meal. Number 3, avocado, the fat that slows the door instead of closing it. Now, before we move forward, I want to correct something a lot of people believe. Fat does not spike blood sugar, but the right kind of fat can meaningfully blunt how high your blood sugar climbs after a carbohydrate-containing meal. Avocado is rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, and these particular fats delay gastric emptying, meaning food simply leaves your stomach more slowly, without triggering the kind of insulin demand that a sugary snack would. Think of your stomach as a doorway between what you ate and your bloodstream. Simple carbohydrates fling that door wide open. Monounsaturated fat gently holds it half shut, so glucose enters gradually instead of all at once. A retired mechanic named Walter, 71 years old from Ohio, came to me because his morning glucose readings were consistently higher than his doctor wanted. His breakfast was toast with jam most mornings. We didn't remove the toast. We added a quarter of an avocado alongside it. Within a few weeks, his morning readings had come down measurably, and he told me, almost surprised, that he genuinely felt fuller until lunch instead of hungry by a.m. Ask yourself, do you eat your carbohydrates completely alone, with no protein or fat alongside them? If breakfast is just toast, or just cereal, or just fruit, that is often where the sharpest spikes are hiding. What to do instead? Add a quarter to a half of an avocado to any meal that's heavy in refined carbohydrates. If avocado isn't available, a small handful of almonds or a drizzle of olive oil achieves a very similar effect. If you're finding this useful so far, type the number 3 in the comments so I know you're still with me, because the next one surprises even people who consider themselves careful eaters. Number 4, plain Greek yogurt, the protein that talks to your pancreas. Here's what makes plain Greek yogurt different from almost every other breakfast option on a grocery store shelf. It's high in protein relative to its carbohydrate content, and that protein does something specific. Inside your gut, digesting whey and casein, the 2 proteins found in yogurt, stimulates the release of a hormone called GLP-1 directly from cells lining your intestine. GLP-1 is essentially your body's own natural brake pedal. It slows gastric emptying. It tells your pancreas to release insulin only when glucose is genuinely present. And it quiets down glucagon, the hormone that would otherwise push your liver to dump even more sugar into your bloodstream. This is the same hormonal pathway that some newer diabetes medications are designed to mimic, except plain Greek yogurt does it through food, at breakfast, for a few dollars a container. The frustrating part is that a lot of flavored yogurts marketed as healthy contain as much added sugar as a candy bar, which completely cancels out this benefit. Read the label. If sugar is one of the first 3 ingredients, it isn't doing what we're describing here. What to do instead? Choose plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt and add your own sweetness with fresh berries, which bring fiber along with their natural sugar instead of stripping it away. Number 5, non-starchy vegetables and the sequence that matters more than the food itself. We arrive now at the piece of this puzzle that the research is most emphatic about, and it isn't really a single food at all. It's about what you eat first. This is sometimes called the carbohydrate last approach, and multiple clinical trials point to the same conclusion. When you eat your vegetables and your protein before you touch your rice, bread, or pasta, your peak glucose after that meal can be reduced by 28 to over 40% compared to eating the exact same foods in the opposite order, or all mixed together. The mechanism circles right back to that hormone we just discussed, GLP-1. When fiber and protein hit your small intestine first, they trigger an earlier and stronger GLP-1 response, which slows gastric emptying. Before the carbohydrate ever arrives, by the time your bread or rice reaches your bloodstream, your body has already put the brakes on. I want you to picture your dinner plate the way I picture it with my own patients. Broccoli, salad, or green beans first, then your chicken, fish, or lean protein, and only at the very end, your rice, potato, or bread. Same exact plate of food, completely different glucose response, simply because of the order. A woman named Diane, 63, from Arizona, told me she felt almost silly when I explained this to her, because it seemed too simple to matter. She started eating her salad and chicken first at dinner, saving her small portion of rice for last, every night for 3 weeks. Her continuous glucose monitor, which her endocrinologist had her wearing, showed noticeably smoother, flatter lines after dinner compared to her old pattern. What to do instead? At every meal that includes a starch, eat your vegetables first, your protein second, and your carbohydrate last. No new grocery list required, just a new order on your existing plate. If you're finding value in this, type the word sequence in the comments, because I want to know how many of you are willing to try rearranging your plate tonight. Number 6. The diluted vinegar preload. Let me be very clear about something before I describe this one, because I don't want anyone drinking straight vinegar out of the bottle. Apple cider vinegar contains acetic acid, typically around 5 to 6% concentration, and when it's consumed diluted in water shortly before a carbohydrate-containing meal, it does 3 specific things inside your digestive tract. It temporarily slows the enzymes that break starches down into glucose. It delays gastric emptying, similar to the fiber and protein mechanisms we've already discussed, and it encourages your liver and muscles to store incoming glucose rather than leave it circulating in your bloodstream. Systematic reviews pooling multiple randomized clinical trials have found that consuming roughly 1 to 2 tablespoons of diluted vinegar before meals produces measurable reductions in fasting glucose, along with modest but real reductions in HbA1c, the 3-month average blood sugar marker, over 8 to 12 weeks of consistent use. Here's the detail I want you to take seriously, especially at this age. Undiluted vinegar can irritate your esophagus and erode dental enamel over time. The solution is not intensity, it's dilution. 1 to 2 tablespoons stirred into a full glass of water, roughly 8 to 10 ounces, and consumed 10 to 15 minutes before your meal. What to do instead? Keep a bottle of apple cider vinegar near your kitchen sink. Before dinner, mix 1 tablespoon into a full glass of water and drink it while you're preparing your plate. Number 7. The 10-minute walk that works faster than most medications. And here it is, the one I promised you at the very beginning, the item that has nothing to do with food, and yet may outperform everything else on this list combined. This is the walk you take after eating, not before, not instead of, but after. Here's the biology. And I think this is genuinely one of the most underappreciated facts in all of everyday medicine. under resting conditions, glucose gets into your muscle cells. Primarily because insulin unlocks the door. But when your muscles physically contract, walking, climbing stairs, even standing up and pacing around your kitchen, they open an entirely separate door that doesn't need insulin at all. Muscle contraction shifts the balance of energy molecules inside the cell, activating an enzyme called AMPK, and AMPK pulls glucose transporters straight to the surface of the muscle cell, pulling sugar directly out of your bloodstream. No insulin required. Clinical research on this is remarkably consistent. A 10 to 15-minute walk started within 15 to 30 minutes of finishing a meal can lower your 1-hour post-meal blood sugar by roughly 40 points compared to simply sitting down afterward. And here's what surprises people the most: multiple short walks spread across the day after each meal lower your overall daily glucose more effectively than one long 30-minute walk taken at some unrelated time of day. I had a patient named Frank, 74, a retired postal worker from Pennsylvania, who told me he already walked 30 minutes every morning and didn't understand why his after-dinner numbers were still elevated. We didn't ask him to walk more overall. We asked him to move that same amount of walking to right after his largest meal. Instead, within a month, his post-dinner readings had come down substantially, without him adding a single extra minute of exercise to his week. Ask yourself, after your biggest meal of the day, do you sit down for the rest of the evening? If the answer is yes, this is very likely where your sharpest daily spike is happening, quietly, every single night. What to do instead? After your largest meal, take a slow 10 to 15-minute walk, even just around the block or up and down your hallway if the weather isn't cooperating. This isn't exercise in the traditional sense. It's a physiological reset button for your bloodstream. Before we move into your action plan, I want to pause on something important. Because everything we've discussed today is about gently flattening glucose spikes, not aggressively crashing your blood sugar. Please make an appointment with your doctor promptly if you notice frequent episodes of shakiness, sudden sweating, confusion, or dizziness, particularly if you take insulin or a sulfonylurea medication, because these strategies combined with certain medications can occasionally push glucose lower than intended. Also seek medical attention for unexplained weight loss, wounds that heal slowly, or blurred vision that doesn't resolve, as these can signal that blood sugar management needs closer supervision than a home routine alone can provide. These signs go beyond the territory of today's conversation. I am not telling you to stop or start any medication, or to change your diabetes management plan, without speaking to your physician first. Everything in this video is meant to work alongside your medical care, not around it. Here is exactly what to do with everything we covered today. Tonight, rearrange your dinner plate so vegetables come first, protein second, and your starch last, in that exact order. Mix 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar into a full glass of water and drink it 10 to 15 minutes before you sit down to eat. Tomorrow morning, add 1 tablespoon of chia seeds to your breakfast, whether that's oatmeal, yogurt, or a smoothie. Choose plain Greek yogurt instead of a flavored version, and sweeten it yourself with fresh berries. This week, swap white rice or potatoes for a half cup of lentils at least 3 dinners this week. Keep a quarter of an avocado on hand to add to any meal built around refined carbohydrates. Most importantly, take a 10 to 15-minute walk after your largest meal of the day, every single day this week, and notice how you feel by the end of it. Ongoing, make the carbohydrate last plate order your default, not an occasional experiment. Keep your post-meal walk as non-negotiable as brushing your teeth. Small, repeatable habits like these compound quietly over months, long after any single food or supplement stops making headlines. Let's bring this together. We covered lentils and their fiber gel, chia seeds and their hydrogel barrier, avocado and its gentle slowing of gastric emptying, plain Greek yogurt and its GLP-1 trigger, the carbohydrate last plate order, a diluted vinegar preload before meals, and finally, the 10-minute walk that pulls glucose out of your bloodstream without needing a drop of extra insulin. You may be feeling like that's a lot to take in at once, but my goal here isn't to overwhelm you, it's to hand you options. You don't need to do all 7 starting tomorrow. Pick one. Master it for a week. Then add the next one. Each of these is fully within your control, and none of them require a prescription, a gym membership, or a dramatic overhaul of how you already eat. If this video gave you something you can genuinely use, Share it with someone in your life who is quietly worried about their blood sugar numbers. Life-saving information only helps people when it actually reaches them. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video, because I publish new research-backed content multiple times a week specifically for adults who want to understand their health rather than just be told what to do. And leave a comment below and tell me which one of these 7 you're going to try first. And if you already use any of them, tell the rest of the community what you've noticed. I read every single comment. Your bloodstream works quietly for you every second of every day. Return the favor with a few conscious decisions. I'm Dr. Richard James, and I sincerely wish you a long, steady, and energetic life. Take care of your blood sugar. Take care of your life. I'll see you in the next one.